Welcome back. All right, we've now made it through a week of school. It is time for your second week, and it's time to get into some book work, and we'll get into that in just a little bit. As one of the things I kind of wanted to give you as a possible strategy is to look at the 5 questions first. You scroll down on this Google form, look at the questions, realize what you need to be looking for, and then as you watch the video, you can always pause and answer. If you come across a part where you're like, oh wait, I know I'm about to be asked about that, so maybe something to consider as a strategy for you. All right. Chapter 8, Lesson 1 contains a couple of things, but it's going to start to use and show you some of the vocabulary words that we had learned last week. The book is going to start off by talking about the differences between substances and mixtures. A substance is a single kind of matter. So if you have a piece of matter or a giant slab of matter, but it's all the same kind of matter, then it is called a substance. If what you have is at least two different substances, then you have what's called a mixture. So think about it as being pure or impure. If it is a pure substance, then or a pure object, it's only got one kind of atom or one kind of molecule, then you have a substance. If you have two kinds of atoms that aren't chemically joined, and or two compounds or two molecules that are different from each other, then you have a mixture. Mixtures are going to be broken down a little bit more in the next lesson, but you're going to see them on the following screens, so I need you to know what they are. So at the very top right here, we've got matter. Matter is anything that takes up space and has mass. Matter is then broken down into two categories: pure substances and mixtures. If we look at how pure substances are broken down, they are either elements or all compounds are the same compound. So if you look at this diagram, they are all the same color, which means that they are all the same type of atom. And so if you have one kind of atom, you have an element. If you have a compound, because there's two different colors, two different elements that have been chemically joined, but all of the compounds are the same compound, it is still considered a pure substance. Now, the other half of matter are mixtures. Mixtures are broken down into something called homogeneous and heterogeneous mixtures. Again, we'll get more into mixtures in the second section, but the reason why these are mixtures is, if you look at this diagram here, there's a single atom. All the atoms are orange, which means that they're all the same element. But over here, we've got molecules, because they're chemically joined. They're the same color, which means that these two atoms that are chemically joined are the same element. So these are not compounds. But we've got atoms and molecules in the same screen. So this is two different substances. It is impure. And so this is called a mixture. Over here, you can tell that these are all the same compound and these are all the same compound, but we have two different compounds and therefore we have a mixture. This is an impure substance. Another way of looking at it is right here. So same thing, matter is broken down into pure substances and mixtures. Pure substances can either be elements where all the atoms are the same. And by the way, these are lighter color because they're like shadows or something, but these are all the same elements. They're all the same type of atom. So it's pure. Here we have a compound. They're all the same compound. All the molecules here are the same. Because there's only one kind of substance, it is considered a pure substance. Now, I can move my head. Yes. All right. So, mixtures, again, if we look, we've got kind of a different substance down here than what is up here. These are gray with two reds, and this is red with two whites. So these are different compounds, and so it is not a pure substance. It is a mixture. And then over here, we've got all kinds. We've got big, giant molecules or compound molecules, and we've got small compound molecules, but we've got at least two different kinds of substances. So therefore, this is a mixture. Don't worry too much about the heterogeneous or homogeneous part. That, again, is for next week. All right. The next thing that Chapter 8, Lesson 1 is going to talk about is the difference between chemical and physical properties. A physical property of a substance is something that can be observed without changing it into another substance. So here I've got my mask. I can find out a lot of things about this mask without having to change this mask into any other kind of substance. I can find its weight. I can find how big it is, whether it smells or not. Fresh laundry. There's a lot I can observe about this mask without changing anything about this mask. These are all physical properties. These are characteristics that I can observe without having to affect this mask. But this mask has some other properties that it has, but I can't really observe them unless I drastically change what this is made out of. For example, I know that this is cotton, and cotton is pretty good at burning. So the ability to burn is an example of a chemical property. But once I burn my mask, then I've changed it completely into a new and different substance. And there's no way to see what that is without actually burning it. So a chemical property is something that I cannot observe without changing it into a new and different substance. Here are some examples of physical properties of matter. I can find out the color of my mask, the size of my mask, the odor of my mask, something called density. Luster is how shiny something is, how hard this is, how easily scratched it is. At what point it might melt, at what point it might boil, although cotton doesn't boil too well. Solubility, conductivity, all of these things are things that I can measure or observe about any substance without changing it into a new and different substance. Chemical properties, I have to change it into a new and different substance to observe. So whether something is flammable, whether it reacts with acid, whether water causes it to rust, whether oxygen causes it to rust, how well it combusts or explodes. All of these things I can find out, but once I've done that, I don't have a mask anymore. I've got something new and different that didn't exist before. All right, I have a second video in this Google form for you to watch. It's about a lot of examples of physical and chemical properties. When you are watching the first half on physical properties, you'll notice that these are things you can observe, but you're not changing into a new and different substance. When you get to the second half about chemical properties, every example has the substance changing into a new and different substance that wasn't there before. These are properties that can't be observed until you change the original substance into something new. Now, you can either pause this video and go watch that right now, or you can finish this video and then watch it later. But just make sure you watch that video at some point in time before you answer the 5 questions today. All right. Another thing that is going to be in your book is a question about the similarities and differences between a glacier and a geyser. And in the past, I've had students that didn't know what either of these were, so let's take a look. A glacier is a giant piece of ice, and they tend to kind of slowly move. Now, to give you an idea of how big this is, there's a guy right there, okay? So that is a giant slab of ice. A geyser is when water underground becomes so hot that it kind of turns into steam and very hot liquid, and it comes shooting out of the ground. And so if you look at these people, they are looking at this geyser right here. Now, they're both made out of water, but that's about where the similarities end. They have measurable properties that are different from each other. Okay. For the rest of the year, and in fact, for the rest of your life, whenever any school textbook has you read something and answer, and there's questions, the questions are almost always somewhere in the passage. Very few textbooks for the rest of your life are ever going to ask you a question that the answer is not somewhere in the text. Your job for the rest of your life is to go find that text. Now, here's an example. This is a screenshot from a question that you're about to see. If we look at this question here, what physical property, so something we can observe about the substance without changing it, what physical property makes metal pots good for cooking? Now, they are not going to ask you this question without giving you the answer somewhere nearby. And it's not too far. If we look up in this paragraph right here, we can see right here two physical properties of metals. And it says right here, what physical property of metal makes it good for cooking? Two physical properties of metals are luster, which is shine, and the ability to conduct electrical current and heat. So that right there, luster and the ability to conduct electricity and heat, that is what you write down here. So no textbook is going to ask you a question that they want you to go find someplace else. It's in the book somewhere. Find it. At the review section of the end, the answer is almost always somewhere in the text nearby. It's just because it's a review, it's somewhere in the passage you just read. So here's a question that you are going to see. Matter is described by its. Well, you have to find a sentence that talks about how matter is described. Matter is described by its. Now, the book is not sneaky. Do you see this big key? They're trying to tell you that this is a key idea. And there are keys scattered throughout the book. Find them. So, matter is described by its. Well, when you go looking, a key. Maybe this is a key idea. We are looking for matter is described by its. What? A sentence right here. Matter is described by its properties. There's your answer. Okay. Now, if you want to get specific, you can talk about matter is described by its physical and chemical properties. That's a better answer, but the book is not going to ask you a question without giving you the answer somewhere nearby. Your job is to find it. And this is true for the rest of your life whenever there's any textbook that you are given. All right. So you're going to read pages 264 to 267 in your book. You have to answer all questions on all pages. What I may have to do is we haven't received your book yet. It may not be pages 264 to 267. It may not even be chapter 8, lesson 1. When I get the books, because I have to record this now, I may have to, I'll put it somewhere on the weekly guide or in this Google form where the real pages are. We're still waiting for the books to arrive. But whatever you are told, whether it's this or wherever I've written, read that. It's about this material that you just answered. There's a bit to how to access the online book. So if we have a hard copy book or an online book, maybe you left your science book at school and then you're sick and you're home. And so you don't have your science book because it's in your desk. Well, you can still get to the online book from your home. And you can even use the materials and tools to write up your book, mark up your online book. Watch the tutorial videos that my students did last year for you for how to do that. The book work is not going to be for a grade. Ask me questions as far as if you come across any. Do your best, fill it out. And then later in the week, I'm going to reveal the answers for you. I just wanted you to actually give it your first try first. Now, don't just sit there and wait for the answers to show up without doing the book work. You're in charge of your learning right now. Your job is to take this moment to learn. There's much better learning in you actually reading and trying to figure it out than just being told the answer. Now, the 5 questions that are in this Google form, that is a grade, but it's not going to be about the book work. Okay. I think that's it. That's how we're going to be doing book work from now on. Get to work on your book or watch the second video, answer these 5 questions, ask me questions before you, if you're not sure about any of the 5 questions that are in this Google form, and do your best to be an independent learning. Thank you much. And let's see if I can move this, and bye bye.